All right, welcome to the January 2022.
Wow, Happy New Year!
Happy New Year, right, Happy New Year. MiniCast, I would like to say congratulations, you survived the year.
Right.
Felt a little Hunger Games-ish there at times, but we made it to the end. And we are here for January, where we will be going over the January highlights, our DEI highlights. We will have another interview with a special guest kicking off the year. And then Tanisha's also going to provide us updates on the upcoming Pathfinder groups that will be opening up during the year of 2022. So I'm going to hand it over to Tanisha and let her get started.
Yes, thank you so much, John. So yeah, this is January. Like you said, we made it to 2022. Again, Happy New Year. Welcome to the new year. So starting off, I'm going to just highlight some of what we're going to be looking at for the month and one of the days we're going to be looking at. So January is actually Poverty Awareness Month. And this month is meant to raise awareness and call attention to poverty in the country and the fight to end poverty by creating equity and opportunity. So when you think of like hunger and malnutrition, limited access to education, disability services, and other basic social services, social discrimination and exclusion can have access restricted to participation and opportunity through poverty. So it's just important for this month to amplify the actions and discussions about how and why poverty continues to impact so many communities across in our country. So from housing to healthcare to education and to employment opportunity, this month and every month, it's time to focus on how we can help and empower individuals to achieve success when faced with consistent inequity. So we really want to try to make sure how can we empower people and help those who may not otherwise have opportunity. And this month, as far as the day that we are celebrating, in January 17th is Dr. Martin Luther King Day. So on January 17th, we celebrate this federal holiday, which is also known as MLK Day annually, and it is celebrated on the third Monday of January. So honoring this American clergyman, activist, and civil rights movement leader, we celebrate him on this day. And it's actually also in celebration of his birthday, because his birthday is actually January 15th. So that's why that day usually the holiday surrounds around the end of the third week of January. So although initially resisted by some states, MLK Day was officially observed in all 50 states for the first time in 2000. So this is like the 22nd year of celebrating. Yeah. Wow, awesome. And Dr. Martin Luther King is also best known for his role in the advancement of civil rights using nonviolent activism in the civil rights movement that protested racial discrimination in federal states and laws. So King has become a national icon in American history, and hundreds of streets in the U.S. have been named after him in his honor. So that's really, really awesome that we are able to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King this month. And so be sure to check out the monthly awareness highlights, where we'll take a deeper dive into both Poverty Awareness Month and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So now the moment we all been waiting for is that we are about to transition into our first interview of 2022. So this is going to be super exciting. Our special guest this month is Terry Leahy, our president and CEO, and he's going to share his thoughts with us about, well, you will see in the interview. All right.
Well, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be our special guest interview for our January podcast. If you would like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your role and kind of summarize what it is you do for MyPath.
Sure. Thank you for having me, John and Tanisha. I've been looking forward to it. So my name is Terry Leahy, and I am the CEO and president of MyPath. And in that role, I guess you could say that the buck stops here at my desk, because ultimately I'm responsible for everything that occurs in the organization. And I report up to the board of directors of MyPath. I'm also a member of the board, but ultimately they are the ones who evaluate me and make sure that I'm keeping the company on track to achieve its goals and achieve our mission.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing it. So, like you said, you are the buck stops here. You're the one in charge of the whole show here. So, briefly share with us, how did you find your path at MyPath?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I started my professional career thinking I would be a lawyer. Went to law school right out of college and worked in Washington, D.C. I started out working for a federal judge, then worked for a large law firm. And what I found is I getting kind of bored, frankly. So I was actually more interested in some of the challenges that our clients had around their businesses than in some of their legal challenges. So I ended up going back to business school and a weekend program. I received an executive MBA. I joined a mediation and arbitration firm. So when we talk about arbitration agreements at MyPath, I can reach back and tap into that experience. And then I moved back to the Midwest to join a small private equity acquisition firm. So I did that for a while. And then I was tapped, I guess you would say, to join Goodwill Industries of Southeastern Wisconsin and Metropolitan Chicago as their first in-house general counsel. So I was still on a legal path, but I was in an organization that was doing wonderful things for people with disabilities. So my eyes opened a little bit about that world. And then I also started getting operations experience. So I was put in charge of our human services operations. Goodwill has a large commercial operations group, so I was in charge of that as well. And what I could see is that, whereas as a lawyer, you tend to advance based on your personal expertise in an obscure area. So you might be the expert in Section 457 of the Internal Revenue Code, something like that. Mm-hmm. Whereas in business and social services, you can affect many people's lives through other people. So harnessing the efforts of a large organization, you could just have much greater collective impact. So that sort of got me thinking in that direction. And then I was actually tapped by an executive recruiter to join MyPath because we were looking for a chief operating officer at the time, back in 2008. So that was 13 years ago. Wow. So I joined the organization as chief operating officer. And then in 2021, when Jim Balistreri, our founder, stepped away from that role, the board asked me to take his place, and so that's how I got here. Does that help?
Yes, that helps. What an awesome path! Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, that is very interesting. And one of the things that you've been instrumental in your role, especially as you took over as our CEO, is our efforts around DEI. So one of the things is really champion the owner resource groups, the Pathfinder groups, and each Pathfinder group, it has an executive sponsor. And the executive sponsor's role is really to maintain the visibility of that group and sort of elevate the importance of it, as well as sit on that group as a voice and an ally and a strong support. And you have chosen to be the executive sponsor for the race and ethnicity team. So if you want to share with us just what drove you to become the executive sponsor for that team.
Sure. Well, I think that effort is really, really important for the future of the organization. So I guess I wanted to be sure, first of all, that I was successful, and I was privileged to be asked to have a seat at the table as well. And I guess there's both a kind of a moral reason and a practical reason. Just morally and ethically, it's the right thing to do. We should be an inclusive organization. We should allow everybody, no matter their background, their situation, to thrive at this organization. So if there are barriers that we are putting up, either consciously or unconsciously, then it's really, really important to identify those and do something about that. So that's on the moral side, but at a purely practical level, our organization is going to be much more successful if we can do this well. And if we can achieve all the objectives that the Race and Ethnicity Pathfinder Group has laid out, I think we'll be distinctive in the marketplace, and we will be a preferred employer for those who have many options these days. And we will be a preferred provider of services, because I think all of the DEI initiatives will inform how we approach treatment and support of the people in our care. It's going to really change everything we do at MyPath at many levels. And I think that's really exciting to be a part of. And I think it could help our owners as we continue to grow and as they continue to advance in their careers.
That is absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all that and giving your scope and perspective on your leadership here and your dedication to diversity, equity, inclusion. That is very powerful that we have somebody that is sitting right up at the top, like you said, that really values that and wants to see that thrive here. So thank you. So tell us why, I mean, what you've already kind of shared up on, but if you want to even elaborate even more on, but tell us why being an executive sponsor is important to you. And generally, what excites you about being an executive sponsor for the Race and Ethnicity Pathfinder? So in relation to MyPath, our owners, our clients, and our communities.
Sure. Well, in addition to what I've already shared, I guess I think a lot about, so what can I do in my role right now that other people in the organization can't do to advance the cause of diversity, equity, inclusion. So, for example, one of the things that is under active discussion right now is our board of directors. How can we infuse diversity, equity, inclusion to a greater extent with the board? Because the board, again, is our governing body. Those members are appointed by our ESOP trustee, and then they employ me. So it's very important to have DEI representative, excuse me, at that level. So I want to be sure that candidates for the board of directors reflect diverse backgrounds and experiences going forward, and that's under active discussion. Then beyond that, as I said before, just how can we use the principles of DEI and adapt them to employee ownership? So we talk a lot about income inequality in this country, and as an employee-owned organization, we offer the opportunity over time for people who dedicate their careers here to build long-term wealth. And is there a way we can sort of tie those initiatives together so that, again, if we're successful at DEI and those efforts, we can help the financial well-being of our employees and owners who are persons of color. And so I think we start by tracking that, figuring out where we are and what we need to do to move forward. And then looking at just our positions throughout the company, we have a significant percentage of employment by persons of color, but relatively few are in management roles. So we need to dig into why that is. What are the barriers to allowing people to be promoted into those roles? And those could occur, again, they might be conscious or unconscious, we don't know yet. But identifying those kind of tangible measures of progress, I think, will be really important. And just areas where we can demonstrate that, again, it's not just checking a box, it's not just words, but the actions of the organization demonstrate our commitment to the principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is, yes, round of applause for that. Definitely important things, and not checking the box. That is so important that we are proactively doing things to make sure that we are truly immersed in and making diversity, equity, inclusion part of our DNA. So thank you so much for sharing that and showing your support for that from our Chief Executive Officer. So now that we are kind of wrapping this up and coming to the end, so it is now January, it's the new year, 2022. Is there anything, like, just last comments you like to share about the new year as we embark on 2022?
Well, I think as everybody's feeling right now, it's been a tough year, right? Both in our personal lives and our professional lives. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot going on in the organization. So I would just encourage everybody to take some time and some few minutes at the end of the year to spend it with your family, with your friends, to remind yourselves what we have. And we have a lot as an organization. We have a lot of strengths. We have a lot of talented people. We have a lot of commitment, and all of that is going to carry us forward. I'm quite confident that our future is very bright and that we will overcome whatever challenges are thrown our way, and that we will continue to prosper. But everybody has to take care of themselves, because if we don't take care of ourselves and each other, we can't take care of other people. So be kind to yourself. I'll leave it at that.
That could not have said it better. That is true. I mean, we spend so much time pouring into each other that we can't forget to pour into ourselves, because we can't pour from an empty cup. So that is a great thing to go into 2022 with, just realizing that refill your cup so that you can continue to pour into others. That sounds like a great motto for us for 2022. So thank you so much, Terry. John, do you have any last things that you'd like to share or talk about before we close out this session with Terry?
No, not at all. I think everything was stated brilliantly. And I agree and echo that I love the commitment MyPath is showing. And it starts at the top, right? And actions always speak louder than words. So I think the actions that we're taking is definitely steps in the right direction for a better future.
For sure.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, Terry. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for our January MyPath MiniCast. All right. Awesome message. Very awesome message. Thank you so much again, Terry, for being here on our first MyPath MiniCast of the year. Just great message to start the year off and get us going for 2022, which is a great time to talk about our owner resource groups. So our Pathfinder groups that we have thus far, we have two. As you guys know, we have the LGBTQ+ and the Race and Ethnicity Pathfinder group. And so this year, like I have kind of prefaced a lot in our past mini-casts, is that we will have six opening up for 2022. So those Pathfinder groups are going to be, and I'm going to kind of tell you what they are and what month they'll come out with, and to kind of get your gears turning, and then tell you about the application process and the search that we're going to be on. So 2022, starting off in March, we're going to open up our women's Pathfinder group. And then we're going to also open our abilities and neurodiversity Pathfinder group. And then we're going to fast forward just the next month, because March we're going to have two, so it's going to be a really busy month. Is in April, we're going to open our environmental Pathfinders. And then in May, we are going to open our mental health Pathfinders. And then in July, we will have our Veterans Pathfinder. And then in August, we will open up our Generations Pathfinder. So you're probably thinking like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. What do they mean? Like, what's the scope of them? Well, you would definitely be able to find out all of that information if you go to the Ready app and look up under the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion folder under Pathfinders, and then you would be able to see the whole list of our new groups that are going to be opening up, because it's just to be too much time to kind of explain all of them. And plus that maybe entice you to jump in on Ready app to take a look at what all is there. But what is important for everybody to know is that the applications are open now. So right now, to be considered for a Pathfinder Leadership, for any one of these groups that you heard that may speak to you, or you're like, man, I want to be a part of that, or kind of lead the charge on that, you can do that. So if you want to learn more, you are more than welcome to reach out to me. Or again, you can go into Ready app and find out all the information from the application to the Pathfinder Leadership's guideline, and just to even look at all the other previous Pathfinder activity that's been happening within the organization. So the Pathfinder Leadership is a really important role to be able to have, because you literally will be helping to lead the DEI efforts for those particular groups. And because I know, and we all know, that your work is so important, we really want to recognize and be able to support people in those efforts. So each Pathfinder leader will be provided with a $2,000 a year recognition bonus. That bonus will be divvied out every quarter in a $500 recognition bonus. But again, like I said, we just know that this can seem like a second job sometimes to people if they take on these initiatives and in these activities. So we really want to be able to honor people's work by providing them with that recognition bonus. But again, if you want more information, 100% reach out to me. If you want to learn more about the groups and kind of like the scope or what they're supporting, definitely reach out to me for that. Or like I said, you can go to Ready app, but anytime, you're more than welcome to reach out. So that is some of the things that we have coming up for 2022. which is really exciting with all of these groups both opening up for our organization.
Yeah, it is very exciting. And having worked for the last year with the LGBTQ plus Pathfinders group, it is a really great opportunity for any owner that feels invested in these groups or identifies particularly with a group to really steer the course of the conversation at MyPath as a whole. So to even take it out of your operating company and say, this is a bigger conversation. The things that the group I'm involved with, the LGBTQ plus group, is working on is broad things that will impact MyPath and all operating companies. And we need people at the table, and we need strong leadership because we identify a number of tactics and initiatives that we want to get rolling and make headway on. So I will just repeat what you say, right? Like as far as if you're interested in being a chair or even a co-chair, because each group will actually have a chair and a co-chair. So if you're interested, you're invested, you want to steer that conversation or at least lead and be a part of it, then definitely take a look at the MinReady app and get with Tanisha. The other thing I would point out too is with this minicast, we've had a lot of very positive feedback. So people are clearly watching. So continue to do that. Like it, share it. It is fine. And the other thing is continue to provide feedback. You know, sometimes we get feedback on topics people would like us to maybe expand upon, and we could do that. We could do a separate mini cast and maybe talk about a specific topic. If you feel that there's more info that needs to be out or an item that you feel very strongly about you'd like to see. One of the things I know Tanisha and I have talked a lot about over this last month is stereotyping. And we talked about it in the fact that people may have noble intentions when they sometimes do things, but what they're really doing is playing into stereotypes. And it actually doesn't make me feel good, but people might be thinking that they're noble in their intentions. So we've kind of joked back and forth about how those things play across and how they come across, and maybe it'd be good info to share. So if you have ideas, if you would like to see other things done by us around those initiatives, then feel free to shoot Tanisha an email and we'll put that on our radar for sure. Other than that, thank you for joining us for our January mini cast. Welcome to the new year. Only good things to come, and we will see you in February.
We will see you in February. And to add to what John said about us doing the mini cast, we also are always looking for special guests.
Yes.
So that means that you can also be a special guest when we do these as well for the topics that you are passionate about. So yes, just wanted to kind of put that out there to reel you guys in.
Absolutely.
So happy New Year, and we'll see you in February.
Happy New Year.